everyone, and welcome back to Outer Space Outcast. On this episode, we are welcoming Randall Nickerson, the filmmaker of Ariel Phenomenon, and I'm quite excited to talk with you about this one. It's a documentary that has impacted my life in many ways, and I believe that is what it will also do for the world, and I want to help you get your message out if I can. So, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
First and foremost, for those of you who don't know, I have been working with MUFON over the last year, and yesterday was our latest event, and we showed Ariel Phenomena, and literally took the entire room by storm. People were crying and touched, and it's a moving film, and we'll dive a little bit into that. But first I want to ask you, what even inspired you to create a documentary talking about this iconic contact experience in Africa of 1994?
I saw the initial Dr. John Mack from Harvard University. I had known him for, we can get into that at some point, he had showed a group of people, and I happened to be there, these clips of these children in Africa who had witnessed a UFO and these creatures also come out of it. And I was just, it always struck me that, wow, those kids are telling the truth. And when John Mack passed away in 2004, I had some friends that were part of his foundation and were friends of his, very close friends of his, and they asked me, because I was making films, short films at that time, if I'd be interested in doing that story. And I'd already seen some of the clips of it, and I was like, absolutely, you know. And then I started, and then I found more of these interviews that were done in 1994, right after it happened. And then I found more, and then I found more, and I'm like, I have to go to Africa, to this school. And when I got on the ground in 2008 at the school, I realized, because they had a wall of names, I could track everybody down. And that was when Facebook really took off. To be honest with you, if it wasn't for Facebook, I probably wouldn't have been able to locate all these people. So it just, the more I went on, I was like, wow, this is just an incredible story. And so I put my heart and soul into it, and it took 15 years, but, and then all of a sudden the bigger companies started to get interested once this topic became much more, since 2017, people became much more interested in this topic and started to take it a little more seriously.
Yeah.
It's an incredible story. Everybody that witnessed this, they're amazing people. I give them a lot of credit for even trusting me to tell their story. That's an honor.
Well, it was done beautifully, and I would say this contact experience, at least from what I've seen, seems to be one of like the most well-known. I know obviously there's a lot of contact experiences that happen, but when you seem to mention, you know, the school sighting in Zimbabwe, people seem to say, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about, I know. So, and having this come out, you said it was released in 2017?
The movie? Mm-hmm. No, Ariel Phenomenon came out, we released in 2022.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we had to release.
Okay.
Because everybody was trying to steal the film.
Okay.
Literally. Unbelievable, but that's what happened.
Okay, well, it's out now, we're gonna spread the word for you. And
that's great. It's on Amazon, by the way.
Okay,
yeah.
Sounds good.
And we have the soundtrack of the film, which took years, just the soundtrack, and wonderful people that just did incredible music. But that's out on Sony and Orchard. Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. For those that aren't really familiar with the contact experience, 1994 Zimbabwe, what was it, 63 students? Around 63?
Well, it was 62 drawings.
62 drawings, okay.
That's where that number came from. There were quite a few more people than that. My estimate is around 100, a little over 100.
Which makes sense because they were out at recess, right? So there was.
Correct. And the school, intelligently so, and I believe it was responsibly done, they did not interview the grade 1s and 2s because people were freaked out. And they wanted to protect the little kids, so they didn't have the kids do drawings. And so there was a lot of people left out, which I understand.
Okay.
But I found the earlier children and for the first time they got to tell their story.
Wow.
Which was pretty incredible to witness. But that's why. So the technical reason that's 62 is because when they did the drawings, the session, the teachers separated all the classrooms and everything and had them do the drawings of what they saw, and there were 62 of those drawings.
Okay.
So there were far more than 62 people that witnessed it. Not only the kids, there were also adults that were witnesses also. People that lived around the area. There's a teacher, not only one. I couldn't find the other one because she had passed away. So there were quite a few witnesses to this event.
Wow, it's just so profound, and it's not often that you have this many people who experience the same thing. I mean, it's kind of unheard of, and maybe that will change as the disclosure movement continues and we keep going. Like, who knows what the future has in store for us, right?
I can't wait.
I
know, like, in this particular event, I know there's so many people that saw it that they're going to keep coming forward. Even now, more of the kids are coming forward that I didn't even get to interview, and I'm like, wow. Just gotta sit back and like, here we go.
Oh man. When I was watching the film yesterday at the MUFON event, it just kept playing in my mind of how important people, and I would like to get into the spiritual aspects of it and talking about the sacred sites that you mentioned in the film, but showing this now is going to open people's eyes in such a massive way. I think when we talk about how people are just now starting to be a little more open-minded and able to grasp these topics without so much fear, and we're just we're a little more open-minded now. And watching the film, it's done so beautifully. You touch on Emily, she was the main. You talk about Emily's experience and what she encountered with her family being super religious, and how that was so hard and how that impacted their family, and that is a reoccurring theme like throughout the world, people that have these experiences. And even when I was watching it, it made me emotional because that's what happened to me too. So it was, being raised in a very religious household, and the things that happened to me when I was a kid, and I told my parents, it was kind of like we don't talk about this. You don't, like, you took it too far, They were nice about it, but they were like, we don't talk about this, And so I really think Emily's story, the story of all the students in general, and just this type of sighting is going to expand what we thought was possible in such a way that it's almost like little breadcrumbs, it makes them a little easier to digest, but it allows you to ask those big questions of like, what is beyond this, and how can we actively take these steps towards figuring out what is beyond our species, our planet, what does all of it mean?
Those same questions you were asking when we were kids, right? Like, where are we? Who am I? Those big, huge questions we're going to be asking. We're asking those again, and we might be at a point where we might be able to take it in and figure it out and feel a little better about where we are, or know or understand more of what we are, who we are, where we are, what we're part of. I'd like to know, for sure.
Yeah, me too. And it's ironic that these beings showed themselves to all these children, like you discussed in the documentary, of how children are more open-minded and willing to see and to ask those questions because of their imaginations, and they don't have I think it's like when a child turns 7 is truly when like something happens in their brain where it makes it harder for them to imagine like they did when they were a kid. It's like literally are like, as we grow, we change, and it doesn't have to be that way though if we keep that imagination going in our species. But our society likes to.
Yeah, I don't use imagination. I just like open-mindedness.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is how I would term it. I remember when I was around 9 or 10 years old, it was like, oh yeah, you can't do that anymore. You got to fit into the system. You got to, you know, no more playing, no more playing, no, you know. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that they intercepted these children at that age, at that particular kind of time in their development.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing I've been thinking a lot about recently is why. Like, what is the developmental age, right, in psychology and medical community also? What happens around that age? Why that? In particular, 9, 10, 11 years old, even earlier, but in particular that age, what's going on in the human development, you know, of a male or female or whatever, to why would they be interested in that particular thing? But I think it's stated in the film by the son of the chief of the village well.
Mm-hmm.
He says it quite well, I think. Amazing how much wisdom is in these indigenous cultures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's another thing I wanted to talk to, because it wasn't not far from where the children saw this craft and these beings. It was the burial site of the chiefs of the indigenous tribes of that area. Was that correct?
Yeah, all of Zimbabwe.
Oh, all of Zimbabwe. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So the school sits in the middle of a UNESCO heritage site where all these chiefs for God only knows how many years are buried. And I was taken around, and Emily went around too, with all of us to see these tombs. And they had sacred springs, where there was a spring only the chief could drink out of, and it's still like that. It was fascinating, but it was something I never even considered through all the years of investigating this and interviewing people. Was the location that happened, like the actual, what was important about the location. That raises a lot of questions. Some just ancient, megalithic stones. I mean, it's a really incredible place. We'll probably be hearing about that location at some point on National Geographic. They have not really explored it, you know, thoroughly. We haven't seen a documentary on that location. But it's a massive thing, and it surrounds the whole school area.
So no wonder.
Like a square mile. I mean, it's right there. The school's right there. What a location to pick.
I know.
So 3 sides of it are all these UNESCO. There's one side, and then across the street there's a uranium mine behind a village, very hidden. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of them out there in that area. But anyway, yeah, it's just fascinating.
Yeah.
Location.
And it just really makes me wonder, you know, the significance of all these sacred sites around the world, and why contact appears to just happen in these spots, and why. What are they trying to tell us? What are they trying to, I'm sure they've been doing it for a very, very long time, probably older than maybe humanity even, who knows. But what does it mean?
It definitely raises questions. It's a deeper, I wasn't really even prepared to go that far, you know, but I had to, when I found that out, and it was a woman I was working with in Africa named Nikki Carter, who told me, like, you realize the site it's on? I'm like, wow. But it just, yeah, it required further exploration. I don't know. I still don't know why it occurred there, but there's an awful lot of interesting facts.
Yeah. I would love to go there and research it, and, you know.
Beautiful place, beautiful people, really amazing. Politically, not so. Military's warfare, all that stuff, but incredible.
It's a beautiful land, yeah. And you see that in the film too. It's just done so beautifully. The way you capture the animals and just the land itself, and just adds on to the beauty of the story, you know, and just even the beauty of the raw emotion of the students, and I had this written down in my notes because it like really just impacted me. The little girl, I can't remember her name, she was one of the ones who was drawing the eyes and explaining, you know, what she had seen. And at the very end of the film, she was like, "Yeah, I'd like to see them again. Like, if you could, you know, like she."
That was Liesl.
Liesl, okay. She displayed such strength, and I wrote this down. I was like, she's so young and she's fearless, and in that moment of seeing something otherworldly and it completely changing what you thought you knew, what you were taught, what you were told, and in that moment, all of those walls of your reality come crumbling down, and in that moment, you still want to go back and communicate with these beings? Like, no wonder they went to the children, you know? Adults would probably be like, see ya, and run the opposite direction. Some of them I would probably run towards it, but who knows?
I don't know. I doubt it. But it's odd. It's interesting about. It's pretty common in the contact experience. No matter how traumatized you get, what you got traumatized by is so profound, and you're just in awe of that. And oddly, you want to see it again. Yeah. Because it's so foreign. And it's also, I don't know, it's just, wow, it's an incredible experience. Yeah.
And the message too that, you know, the children received about how you need to take care of your planet, and the little boy was talking about when he received the telepathic communication from these beings of, you know, they were telling me about pollution and technology. He said technology on the planet and trees going down, which in my mind, I was picturing like nuclear warfare, right? If you're not careful, humanity is like a species of children having toys they should not be messing with. It's like if the nuclear bomb goes off, that's exactly, trees go down, it impacts the entire planet, and that reverberates out into the universe. Are these beings coming here to tell us you need to watch your technology, or you're going to destroy yourselves if you're not careful? At least that's was my take on it, but I wondered if that's kind of what you thought too, maybe, or if it was something else.
Well, I found it fascinating because it's, you see it in other contact cases where people have images of this very same thing. So I was wondering, is that what happens when you get really traumatized? You start thinking about your own space, your own environment, your own cage, so to speak. I don't know. Or are they really, and it seems to be that way, that they're trying to communicate something to us that they have a wider view of. We're in it, so but we all know, yeah, we're very, very dangerous and very stupid with our technology. We're taking huge risks that we shouldn't be. But they have probably a better perspective, and maybe that's what they're doing, is just sharing it. Because they're not telling us how to fix it. They're just saying, guys.
It's kind of prime directive stuff where it's like, we're not gonna, we can't force you to do anything, but please make better choices as a species, please.
You know, Star Trek, I gotta say, I'm not a Trekkie, but
okay. My dad was, I grew up that way.
I have to say that my God, there were some profound things in that series from that kind of perspective. Yeah.
I watched the movie a couple months ago, and at the very beginning of the film, there's this indigenous tribe to this planet, and the ship comes down, and they see the ship, and they're like, oh my gosh, we've never seen anything like this. So then they start drawing it and painting it, and they start painting it on the walls, and they end up worshiping the ship that just has Captain Kirk and a couple, but because they didn't have an understanding of what it was, it was so foreign and outside of them, that it became something, they ended up worshiping it, which is kind of something that, if you look at Earth's history, it's a reoccurring theme there too. So just really makes you wonder, you know.
I mean, you have the Aborigines, and you have the African cultures, you have Dogon tribe, you have the Zulu. I mean, it's just Nazca, Peru. I mean, it's all over the planet.
Yeah.
And
the more that we can connect these dots, though, and put it into ways that people can digest it, like the way you did with this film, it's really just going to, I think, wake up humanity, which we are in the midst of, which obviously it's been happening for a while, but we seem to have kind of reached this moment of things are really shifting, you know, and there's the astrology aspect of it, you know, of us going from this age of Pisces into this age of Aquarius, which represents technological advancements and evolution and growth, which just seems to be what we are doing as a species. How quickly even our technology has come in just like the last 20 years, you know? So it really seems like we're in the midst of something very profound and just a profound change for our species.
I agree. I see it. Yeah, I'm glad you see it too. It's just a lot of the puzzle pieces are all coming together, which is pretty amazing. Because then it's like, okay, we understand this. Now we can focus on what's next.
Yeah.
Which I don't know what that is. I'm kind of excited to see.
Yeah.
But the puzzle pieces are coming out of Egypt, out of all these ancient sites, like Ancient Aliens and all these shows. I mean, I don't watch those too much, but what they've done to the public by presenting these things to the public on a wide scale all over the world has changed things.
Yeah.
The archaeology and the sightings, and they're connected. There is a direct connection to it. That's exciting. But yeah, you're right on about that. We're connecting the dots, and every day, it's speeding up a bit more, and it's like, wow. Yeah. Hang on for the ride.
I know, right?
Yes.
And it's the beauty of, I hear a lot of negative talk around social media and that kind of network system, but I also think that we really can be utilizing it in a positive way and use it as a way to truly share what's happening in the world. And at least that's what I try to do, you know, with my social media, and coming from a very religious family, and all of my accounts is, hey, this, you know, aliens, and even using my account to kind of put the little breadcrumbs so my family can kind of absorb it slowly. But I know these are topics that they make people very uncomfortable, and they really ask you to look beyond what you thought you knew, and that takes bravery and courage, and not everybody, that's not easy, you know. But when you can create art, whether it's film, whether it's a song, whether it's just paintings, you know, when you can create something that can truly help people see and become at peace with maybe where we're at in the universe, and you know, we're probably not alone, and science is starting to back that up now, and this is a very vast universe, and there's other universes, and we're just really beginning to tap into that, and yeah, very profound time.
Well, I can empathize with the family. I mean, it's the same with people I love and family. I just have to give them little pieces and let them figure out themselves. Because I would love for them to understand what I understand, but they'd have to go on the journey I went on, which they can't. So I get that. It's like, you just have to, you know, whenever you guys get a chance, you might want to look at this. I mean, that's how change happens. It doesn't happen like boom, right away. It happens over time. And you're right, it's shared through art. Largely, that's the big things that happen in life are through music and films and photographs, and it's not words.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's lyrics, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. No, quite beautiful though. Yeah. We talked a little bit about John Mack, who was the Harvard professor. Okay.
Yes.
And he went to Africa. He was invited to go to Africa, right? To
the BBC called him, when they realized this happened. They didn't know who to call. So he called the UFO director for MUFON in Africa, which was Cynthia Hines. She called a man in England who was a researcher there. For some reason, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I know it. And then he recommended, you need to call this person at Harvard University who's researching this stuff, these events. And John Mack was he was a professor of psychiatry at Harvard University. He had won the Pulitzer Prize for a biography on Lawrence of Arabia. I mean, he was a very famous and brilliant man. And then he decided to look into this. A friend of his had introduced him to this subject, and he thought, oh, these people must be crazy. And then he went and met with a lot of these people who had encounters with these creatures, or the phenomena itself. And he came back from that meeting, because I've interviewed people who met him right after that meeting for dinner. And he was just blown away. Like, these people are not crazy. These people, this is not a psychiatric problem. These people are telling the truth. I don't know what they saw, but this is not a psychiatric thing, because that was his specialty. He had worked with children. He'd worked with patients for 50 years. So he had he'd written books, papers about all kinds of about suicide, about addiction. I mean, his work is still, we use his work all the time. They use it at the universities because he had done so much work. So anyway, it was interesting that he really was the first Ivy League doctor, professor that took the subject seriously, and he knew so well that this was real that he risked his career. He risked everything because he knew that from his experience as a physician, everything he did, to know that this was not a fictional thing or a psychiatric thing. People were reporting real experiences.
So he knew what he was getting himself into, because he faced such backlash, and I mean, people just really let him have it and ripped into him and his career, and it impacted him, I would assume, to the end of his life.
It did. Unfortunately, it did. They took him down. What people don't realize was, they did the Inquisition into his life, and they were talking about taking his tenure away as a professor, but really what they did was destroy his reputation inside the university with other professors, because he was a superstar on campus until this, and then he lost his circle of friends. That was the most damaging that I saw, because I got to see him quite a bit, and I saw the damage. I don't think he really realized the impact of what he was doing would have on his life. I don't think you really do when you take a jump off a cliff like that. When you take a risk, you kind of understand that, this is going to be hard, but you can never predict how hard that is. I know it from a different perspective, but boy, I just honor the man for his courage.
That's what I thought too when watching the film, and it didn't stop him though. He was passionate about his work, and he kept at it, and I respected and honored that, and I hope other people can learn from that as well. And granted, it's a little different now though, as the phenomena is getting a little more obvious, I would say, and a little more in our faces. It's kind of harder now to be like, no, that's not real.
You got F-15, F-16, right? You got our best people in the world, Top Gun pilots, saying, that is real, man. I don't know what it is, but that is real.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
It's a big deal for all of us.
I know.
But I think, try to stay positive. Like, I think we're gonna be okay. It's just we have to talk and sort it out, and it may take decades, likely. It may take generations for us to really come to grips with it. Maybe. I don't know how long it's gonna take. but I think we can deal with it.
I think so too.
I think so.
I think we are very capable of it as a species.
Yeah, when we want to get something done, we can get it done.
Yeah.
But we just have to all be on the same page. And I think we're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Share the information, talk to each other. Like last night after the MUFON event, how we all went to dinner, and the end of the table that I was sitting at, we were all just talking about, this is so profound. Like we have a lot of those people haven't shared their experiences until coming to something like this. So they've lived like full lives without sharing this part of them that is a part of their truth and that is a part of who they are. But they did it because they were afraid of being ridiculed, and that just doesn't sit right with me. I'm the type of person where it's like, well, I'm gonna say it anyway, and if you don't like it, that's sorry.
Yeah, we can deal with that later, but I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
Yeah.
if it needs to be said, and I went to college for environmental management, environmental science, and human ecology. So I studied how how humans impact the planet, and I have this drive to like figure all these things out, and really just want to bring awareness to all of these things. And I hope I don't make people super uncomfortable with it, but I really want to get the conversations started and help us work together, because I think when the collective begins to actively make these changes, because the government's not going to do it, they're, I feel like, trying to make us turn the other way and not work towards this, or maybe they have their own narrative with it, but it truly does begin with us and working together and being one with this, and growing together with this information and seeing where it might take us, and asking the hard questions, which is not easy, right?
No.
But yeah, there is so much out there for us to actively discover and see what's there and what we can make from it, and maybe contact comes from that. I don't know.
Well, that observation is really what you saw last night, and what I've been seeing for a long, long time is, it makes me sad because of the secrets that people, they don't talk about it, and because they're afraid to talk about it because there's no acceptance of it. But and then because they don't talk about it, they have an impact on civilization, on the rest of humanity, and God only knows what kind of way, because they haven't been able to share.
Mm-hmm.
So it creates a kind of disharmony in the organism of our civilization, our societies, our communities, that doesn't need to be there, and it's probably not helpful. Anytime you keep a really big secret, it has consequences, and it has consequences in the community. It just works up and up and up to bigger scales, but yeah, it makes me sad when I see it, because it's just like, my God, it's so painful for people to keep that secret for so long, and they keep it alone. Like you see in the movie, one of the women, she never shared it with her husband. She got married.
That was so shocking to me, to be honest.
But that's not unusual.
I know.
That's what's so sad. Like, can you imagine? Like,
just like that's a part of who you are. How do you
you're not really
talk about it?
sharing a big part of yourself, in a sense, and that has an effect on the relationship too, which has an effect on the community, which has an effect on the state and the country and the world. It's just, I think when we get through this and it becomes more, it's just matter of fact, we're going to be far healthier as a species.
Yeah.
I really think that.
Yeah.
Because it's just been a secret that's been kept for way too long.
Yeah. I wonder if when more of these truths start to come out, and I'm monitoring the disclosure movement and trying my best to pay attention with that, but also taking it with a grain of salt, and I want to be aware of what's going on, but also I understand there are people that want a certain narrative to take place, so I really am just trying to see all sides of it, as I was taught to when I was in school, like, both sides of the argument, you see both sides.
Yeah,
and
you have to hear both sides of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people that really want to control the narrative. They're concerned, obviously, but it's good that you're watching that. I am too. Kind of trying to pay attention as much as possible, and also understand why they want to control the narrative. Because obviously, and I agree with those people. It's a big deal, and they're concerned. I get it. I understand that. So how can we all work together on this?
Yeah.
That's what that's the problem. I think we're actually in the middle of that. It's like, okay, should we start talking? I guess we should start talking.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time. And thank God. And I hope that continues instead of trying to put it back in the closet, because that's just not going to be helpful. Too many people know. There's too much information out there. It is not going to be put back in the closet.
Yeah.
So those people who want to control the narrative, and they're good people also, they need to, start having discussions and realize that they don't have adversaries really. I mean, if the people that have gone through this, those aren't the enemy. We all know how big of a deal this is, so how do we do it? How do we figure this out? Let's discuss. And if we need to take baby steps and we all agree on that, let's do that. I'm good with that. I know it's a big deal. I can see how it is with my family and my friends. I'm like, whew, okay, yeah.
Small steps. One small step for man.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
We'll get our way up there,
Oh, that's good. I like that analogy. It's really perfect, actually.
Yeah, but it's
one giant leap for mankind.
It really is, though,
really is.
because it's going to shake things up like never before.
Yeah.
But we've reached this point now where that's just everything is at least it seems like everything has kind of led up to this point. With science, with religion, with spirituality, with who we are as a species in our evolution, like we have reached this point and we can't go back now. Too many people have encounters and contact experiences, and quantum mechanics is caught up too, and so it's kind of like we are in this very new phase of, okay, this is we're about to jump into the ocean and we need to learn how to swim.
You're right. And yeah, absolutely. And space.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're at a moment in the last 50 years, right, where we've been able to cross the boundary of the cage of the Earth, right? Or I jokingly, maybe it is a cage. Who knows? but we've left the boundaries of our planet, and that's a big deal. Like we're going out into that ocean, space, and we're just learning. We're still babies in the whole process. And that's also a big deal. I mean, all these things are converging at the same time. We've got space travel, climate change, technology evolution, like theoretical revolutions about physics. I mean, our whole we're just in this huge growth phase, which is kind of dangerous for any creature.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely, you're right on about that. It's just a profound time. It's an amazing time to be alive.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's very exciting. Kind of chaotic, there's things happening all over the world that I really think this era of social media, we have access to all the corners of the world. We're seeing now what's happening, and it's overwhelming, but because it's so overwhelming, it's up to us then to ask those questions of, well, what can we do about it? And what can we do about it together? And how can we actively seek answers to the questions that we have, and how can we make the world a better place, and for the, so it is a very profound time in our history. It's all unfolding perhaps as it's meant to, and just stay along for the ride, I guess. But
yeah, I wonder about that. You wonder about that.
Yeah.
Like, what is this the way it's supposed to be? The argument about fate. Is your fate already? All of us. It brings up those profound questions too.
I guess we'll see, won't we?
Yeah, we're gonna find out one way or the other.
Yeah, and we can kind of start to wrap this up here, because I really, ultimately, I want people to watch the documentary for themselves, gather their own information from it, how it makes them feel, share that with their friends and their family, and that's how movies have always been. At least for me, I grew up watching these old movies, and to this day I still watch them. They're comfort to me, and films can do that for people, and I really, really think this is one of them, and it can really help people understand and absorb and begin to ask these big questions that are overwhelming. And with that being said, what do you think is next for humanity, and where would you like to see us go from here?
Wow. Well, I just want to say something about, the film. I wasn't trying to hammer an agenda in the film, because exactly what you're talking about. I wanted people to have their own experience. I don't want to tell you what, to manipulate you or anything. Here's the data. Here's what I found out. Here's what all these other people are saying. And, just to present it as it is, and let people take away what they take away with it. And I don't know where we're headed. I think this is the big one for us. How we deal with it is going to dictate where we go from here. How this other species deals with us, I don't have the answers to that either. I know they're there. A lot of people know they're there, so maybe we should open a dialogue if that isn't going on already.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's the next step. And if we open a dialogue with another species that's that advanced, everything we think is possible is going to change. Yeah. If I had a dream, I do have a dream, would be to be the photographer on a planet that has life somewhere else. To take the first photographs of life on another planet. That's my dream. Is that possible? Probably not, but hey,
who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
I'm still open to that. I'd love that.
I would love to.
I'd probably get killed because whatever planet that was, they'd probably like, what's that thing? I'll eat it or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
But it would be.
But really, what is possible for us? I mean, is that possible for us? Is there?
If somebody gave us a ride, probably.
I just need the time, the date. Yeah. I will be there. I would gladly be.
And then you have to get over the fear
Yeah.
of those things, and not being in technology that you don't understand, and trusting that you're gonna not die. That's a hard thing actually.
Yeah.
For human beings, I think. When we first started, people were terrified to get into an airplane. For a long time, they had to really, steer people, assure people and everything else. Can you imagine getting inside of one of these craft? Travel through space? I'd be a little bit like, can I look at it really carefully for a long time and tell me how it works?
I keep thinking of the girl from the film where she was like, I was really scared, but yet really excited. It was like she was experiencing both, and we're just human. And we are a young species compared to, our Earth is young compared to other planets, and our Earth is young compared to our universe, honestly. So we're just kind of like the babies. I view us as, in our solar system, and I think eventually as we evolve, this will just get easier, and maybe perhaps if ships do come down, we're gonna say, all right, let's do this, we're ready for this, we can do it. Maybe that will be in my lifetime and maybe not, but I will continue talking about it and preparing for that time if needed.
It's going to happen. I would imagine, if not this, as Emma said, if not in this lifetime, maybe the next.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're at that point where it's going to happen in this generation or the next generation. Because I don't think we can go further without addressing that truth. That, guys, by the way, we're not alone.
Yeah.
We got to get through that hurdle first, and then we can move forward again. And I think we've been stuck for a while because people have known and they haven't shared it with the rest of us. So we've been sort of in this place for probably 100 years. Some people will say less, but I think it's longer. I think they've known about it. Official people have known about it a lot longer. And it's kind of frozen us and gotten us into a lot of trouble because we're not dealing with the truth, right, of the reality we live in. When you don't do that, truth always comes back to you, bites you in the ass all the time. If you want to, anybody that's kept a secret or told a lie, it always comes back to you. And we've done it on a big scale on a society by now not telling the population the truth. And there's been repercussions for that.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully once that's done, we can move forward again. You know?
Yeah.
Not technological. We've been doing great on all. It's deeper than that. It's not technological. We've done amazing things, but at the soul kind of heart level, we've been kept in this sort of limbo for a while.
Yeah.
Because of lack of transparency and truth.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to let's move forward.
Yeah.
All of us.
And then I also reminded me of how the film also touches on how it is a spiritual experience. A lot of these encounters, right? And we must find a way to kind of merge the spirituality of who we are and our souls with technology, so we can kind of move forward in a harmonious way rather than one that is maybe a little more chaotic, or that I think what I'm trying to say is the more that we can understand technology and the universe, I think that goes hand in hand though with spirituality, and we must find a balance with that and then move forward from there. And I hope we can figure out how to do that as a species, but that starts with us understanding that we kind of have to look beyond religion a little bit, and I think a lot of people are afraid to kind of take that step, especially. But
well, it's so we get into this black and white, like it's good or evil. It's like okay, maybe, but where's the middle? What's in the middle there? And maybe it's not that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more complicated, which I believe it is. It's super complex. These things. And maybe it's not what we think it is. That's the other thing. Maybe it's not what we think it is in the same way that we have for thousands of years, right? Or at least in certain religious tracts. It's funny because you talk to the native cultures, the indigenous cultures in a lot of countries, they've known about it forever. It's no big deal.
They're unfazed.
They're unfazed. They were like, they respect these things enormously. And you have to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
But they know about them. They've always known about them, and they kind of laugh at the Western world, like, we've known about this for thousands of years.
I caught that in the film. Yeah.
It's really true. I was standing in a village with this man, and we're standing out at night because people go out at night. There's not a lot of TVs over there, so people spend time out at night. I mean, they do go to bed early, but and get up super early. But anyway, we're standing up there, look at the stars, and I'm gonna ask him. He's like, do you think there's life out there? And he's like, of course. He kind of like, why would you ask such a stupid question?
Oh man, I know. The Western world needs a little bit of work, doesn't it?
There's life everywhere we look. Everywhere we look, we find life. And to think there's nothing out there is such an idiotic thought.
Yeah.
Who even brought that into the conversation? Because it's ridiculous.
When I was growing up, my dad would always tell me, God, the creator, is too magnificent to make only humans. But of course, then when I would tell them about my encounters, they were like, oh, well, it's your imagination, But even that has stuck with me, though, ever since I was little, of the creator is too magnificent to create just you,
Yeah.
or just the human species. Like, it's so much bigger than that. And he even understood that, but was still hard for him to understand encounters that I have had, and to really take that understanding of God created more than just humans, and truly integrate that and say God created more than just humans. Like, you really have to sit with it and allow yourself to go there, because it's a pretty deep. It's a deep feeling, emotion, thought that will you know, it can send many into a spiral if they're not careful, but ultimately we know we're not alone. We have evidence, we have science to back us up now. We know we're headed in this direction, so we kind of just need to accept it, we're not alone. And then move forward, you know?
In the film, John Mack talks about human egoism and you know, the things that when Galileo, Copernicus, and then Galileo proved that we're the center of the universe. And then the Catholic Church threw that guy in jail. They didn't apologize to him until 1992.
Jeez.
Right? Nothing against the Catholic Church, just saying like this is how the how attached to everything's about ourselves, how we're the most important thing. And because I spend so much time with wildlife and photography and filming them and studying them, it's the same with most species. They're really self-centric. Like the whole world's about them. They run into me out in the woods, they're like, what the fuck is that? Sorry. What the hell is that? And they stare at me and they really watch me for a while and they're like, oh, I'm getting back to my species.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm like super important and there is no mystery. Like it's so interesting, and human beings do the same thing. Yeah, it's John Mack was right about that, about how that's been the problem. Is human beings to accept that they're not the center of everything. Yeah. And that also speaks to a mature, wise species, is when you come to that realization, like, oh, it's not just about me. And even as a human being, an individual, like, oh, it's not just about me. Oh no. Wish it was, but it's not that way. Used to think it, but it's not that way.
We're asking the right questions.
We're
making the right moves. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're creating the art that will help humanity evolve, and I think that's pretty cool. So, thank you for being such a good artist.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to the next.
Me too.
Because I want my next to be better.
Yeah.
You know?
I
don't want to go backwards.
think we can expect good things from you, though. So,
that's
with
the
that,
intent.
Yes, I think you got it. You got it. But with that being said, where can people watch Ariel Phenomenon?
Well, our website is arielphenomenon.com, and then you can get it on Amazon, rent it on Amazon. We do sell DVDs. The soundtrack is on Orchard Sony Music. It's a great soundtrack. I really love it. Took a long time, and the artists that worked on it were great. Just fantastic. Some very famous people, actually.
Very cool.
Actually, on my crew. You know, my crew, I hate to say my crew because it's not my crew. I organized them to work with me, but they're all very individual artists who are amazing in their own right and have huge awards and resumes. And Chris Seward, I got, Rebecca Rideout and Rick DeGrasse, and then, anyway, so. Yeah, there's just a lot of really great artists that made it together, and I so appreciate them and all the people that made it possible. But yeah, you can get it on Amazon. We're working, trying to get. We want to get it around the world with a major distribution deal. We did have a very major thing happening. People will probably find out pretty soon. That. Just got interfered with, I guess you could say.
Okay.
And which is great. It's been hard. It's been hard to get it the viewing that it deserves. We've been traveling all over the United States at this point, and pretty soon we're going to be doing the world tour. But
wow.
It doesn't end with the art being done. And then you have to get it out there.
Promote
And
it.
there's forces that work against you. Because obviously somebody's like, yeah, not so quick.
Well.
Unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And of course it's that way with a lot of things in this topic, in this phenomena, but.
Oh yeah, I'm not alone in that.
Yeah.
I've found, like, oh, this is what happens? Well, why didn't somebody tell me?
Well, it appears though that, like we were saying, truth always comes out, and this is an unstoppable force of, I want to say nature, but an unstoppable force of information that people are becoming more able to absorb and to hear and to listen, and people want these answers. And so I hope that it will become easier, whether it's for your film or for others, because it's time. It feels like it's time. And so I will do what I can to help promote it.
I appreciate it.
And I just look forward to your other projects and whatever life has in store for you next. I think you will do quite well. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And being on this
you.
episode of Outer Space Outcast. Maybe in the future for your next one, we can have you on again. Until next time, thanks for watching.